my name is Anna. Welcome to Read Clean Books. If this is the first time you're joining me, I review clean books on this channel. As always, for every book I review, there's a detailed content description down here in the summary, just so you know what exactly is in the book that you might want to know about beforehand. So today we are discussing The Outlaws Scarlett and Browne. I picked it up because I read other books by Jonathan Stroud. I just finished one of his other series. Then I knew I had to pick up The Outlaws Scarlett and Browne, which is his most recent series. And the cover is so beautiful. Usually I don't like characters on the covers, but this one is really beautiful, so I really enjoy it. The plot, it's a post-disaster England. So England has turned almost into this desert wasteland, and although the majority is wasteland, there's pockets of cities that still survive, and those seem to be thriving. Our main character, Scarlett, this is her, she's a redhead. She's an outlaw. She robs from the towns, but you don't hate her because when you hear about the towns, they're even worse. And so Scarlett, she's an outlaw, so she's on the run. After one of her jobs, she meets Albert Browne, and Albert is the exact opposite of her. He's totally naive, no street smarts, he has no idea how to survive in the world. She takes pity on him and decides she'll help him just get to the next town. But then obviously things happen, a lot more happens, and they're traveling together, and you find out she's on the run obviously for being a robber, but he's also on the run from his past. It reminds me a lot of The Princess Bride, same with Huckleberry Finn, although I didn't like Huckleberry Finn, and I like this book. This book is so good. It made me realize I've just been reading bad literature. I forgot what good literature felt like until I started reading Jonathan Stroud recently. So yeah, that's the non-spoiler section. If you haven't read the book, stop watching, go read the book, go check it out from your library. And if you have read the book, let's get talking. So I feel the need to let it be known that I was just in awe of Jonathan Stroud's writing process the whole time. I have my notes for the book. They're on this little piece of paper. It's the piece of paper that came with the book because I put the book on hold at the library. About 100 pages before the end, I started writing down page numbers where the writing was just so good, it made me feel something. And I wrote so many down in only starting on page 318 out of 400. Let me give you a snippet of just how amazing this writing is. So this is right after the big boat fight that happens at the end. So listen to the way Scarlett describes the scene. Scarlett was eyeing up her options. The red stain in the sky hung over them, its phosphorescent fingers bending on the wind as if blindly clutching at the lagoon. There was light enough for her to see by, get the details fixed for when she made her move. Like a red stain in the sky, phosphorescent fingers. Oh, and then here's another one from just pages later. Scarlett's body went one way, her mind the other. Nothing filled the space between. Like, Jonathan Stroud has just amazing writing. But we're not here to talk about the literature, are we? We're here to talk about the plot. At the beginning, it felt kind of slow to me, especially because the book starts out with us understanding Scarlett has just killed people and then she's going to rob a bank. I have a tight moral compass. I was thinking, why am I rooting for this woman? But of course, I was wrong because the towns are just so vile. Something that I really enjoyed is the way that the world building is never explicitly set out. Terms are brought up a lot about the disasters that have faced the world, the cataclysm, the Great Famine, the Great War, I think is one of them. It's descriptive enough, but what caused the famine, how many people died, no, we don't know. Same with the cataclysm. There's these huge ruins. They're from the cataclysm. What was that? Was it a nuclear bomb? Was it a war? We don't know. And that's what's so intriguing. He just gives you enough to understand the danger of it, but not enough to be fully satisfied. So I really appreciated the way that he did the world building. Genius. So I have to say, I was so confused when Albert first showed up, but the first flashback of Albert, of him back at Stonemore, he's explaining the tests as if we know what the tests are, but obviously we have no idea what he's talking about. That's when the book really picked up. Then we start on the whole journey with Albert and Scarlett. The problem is I'm American and I don't really know English architecture. She's always saying something to the east, something to the west, and I know we had a map at the beginning of the book, but I'm really bad with geography. I don't really know what route they took. It doesn't really matter, but I felt really lost. I didn't know where they were going. So Scarlett's super funny because the part when she thinks about selling Albert off, oh, I could take Albert to the markets, and Albert's like, are you thinking of selling me into slavery? She's like, what? Why would you ever think that? And we're just like, oh, how did he know? But then once you find out he can read minds, what a twist. I really appreciated the dynamic between Scarlett and Albert. So Scarlett, although she's an outlaw and she kills people and she slaps people and punches people and doesn't smile at people, although she's kind of rough on the outside, she has a a genuinely good heart. We don't know anything about Scarlett's past. We know based on the things that Albert has read from her mind that she's experienced the tainted before. She has a younger brother named Thomas, maybe. At the end of the book, I really was rooting for Scarlett. I was obviously really rooting for Albert. Albert is so whipped for Scarlett. Scarlett is the son. Scarlett is the son to Albert. When he had thought that Scarlett had died, oh, that was peak. I think the thing I really liked about this book is it's a true story of the goodness in such a corrupted place. All the cities are just corrupted. They're run by the faith houses, by the mentors, whatever that is. And Albert's a little corrupted as well. He has these powers. He just maxes out and accidentally kills people. Sometimes it's on purpose, I guess. And Scarlett, she's an outlaw. They don't have the opportunity to just sit by. There's goodness in the flawed. The ending of the book, I thought it was going to be a Romeo and Juliet type of thing where she's on one island with Johnny Fingers and he ended up on the other island with the other people. I don't remember their names. I only remember that they throw clams into the sea. I really thought it was going to be a Romeo and Juliet type of story where Scarlett was on one island and Albert was on the other island and that they wouldn't be able to see each other because the islands hate each other. Turns out that Albert and Scarlett crash landed on the same island. Oh, and Dr. Calloway was there. I knew. I'm not very good at guessing plot twists. I don't even know if this was supposed to be a plot twist or if it was foreshadowed. I knew that Dr. Calloway had some mind powers of some kind. At the end, when it turns out that she stopped Scarlett's bullets, felt fulfilled that I knew she had some mind powers. That part was crazy at the end. Albert had said before, I would rather drown than go back to Dr. Calloway. And so they're up at the cliff and then he jumps off and Scarlett is so sad, but she knows that Albert just did what he had to do. There's that whole confrontation where Scarlett is talking to Dr. Calloway and Dr. Calloway's holding her over the edge and there's this back and forth, but it wasn't exposition. It made sense that Dr. Calloway would be saying all these things to Scarlett. Scarlett hurts Dr. Calloway right when Dr. Calloway pushes Scarlett off the edge. And it says that Scarlett felt so much peace knowing that although she was gonna die, that at least she had helped Albert the best she could. And then Albert's alive and Dr. Calloway dies. So good. And Albert says that right before he had jumped, he had seen something beautiful and passionate and fiery just flare up inside Scarlett, but he doesn't specify what the emotion is. There is some romantic inclinations here, but it's never quite super explicit. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Is it romantic? I could imagine Albert falling in love with Scarlett very easily, but I don't know how Scarlett feels about Albert, besides that passionate thing that she felt right before Albert jumped. Oh, and when they were just sitting in the cave, and there's just them talking. Oh, and Albert just felt like he could be anywhere because he was with Scarlett. But then the book kind of ends just with Scarlett saying she's gonna leave Albert in the islands, but then it's implied he's gonna go with her to help her rob the bank. I'm so interested to see what's gonna happen as Albert gets a better hand on his powers. I believe in him. He can do it. I'd be interested to see if Albert and Scarlett have a bigger role to play than just outlaws. I wonder if somehow with them, we're gonna be able to overthrow and change the faith houses and the mentors. And what's with the tainted? I feel like we don't have any closure from the tainted. Oh, except for Dr. Calloway is saying that the tainted, they were deviating from society and they had evolved to become like how they were, super powerful, but not really human. And the same thing is happening with Albert and everyone else at Stonemore. They're evolving to have these supernatural powers and they just can't be stopped. I forgot about that part. What's gonna happen in the next book? Are Albert and Scarlett gonna somehow be able to redefine society? I have no idea and I'm so excited. I need to know what happens in the next book. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining with me. I'm Anna. As always, read clean books. Seriously, you should read The Outlaws Scarlett and Browne or just anything by Jonathan Stroud because he is an amazing writer.